Hello mellow yellow fellows, Tisisrealnow, and I sure do love pizza. And I sure do love my towers. Now, if only someone put these two together, that would make a game that would totally get overshadowed and snubbed of a victory in Game of the Year. Pizza Tower. The game's so big, the Italians stole the final level of the game and put it into real life. Now I think it's safe to say everyone has at least heard of this game. Considering I'm over a year late on this, but man, Pizza Tower. It's a high-octane platformer where you play as a fictional species known as an Italian, who are famous for their rage and ability to break the sound barrier while breaking metal. And Peppino Spaghetti is peak Italian. The game consists of you running around trying to control your speed while reacting and adapting to the tower's brilliant level design, zipping through corridors and rooms while being a menace. There's nothing quite like it. If you haven't played the game before but have experience in other platformers, the closest comparison I can make is the utter speed and control of Sonic games, with an emphasis on platforming in segments and power-up like transformations throughout the levels, like Mario. Now, if only there was an old game series that was ignored by Nintendo that ended up being the sole inspiration to this game. That would be crazy. Oh yeah, Waluigi's brother, Wario Land games were one of the greatest inspirations for this game, especially Wario Land 4, with the whole escape segment things and other stuff. I don't know, I have never touched a console in my life. I trust those big gamers on this comparison, they can never let me down. However, if you are an avid Pizza Tower fan or have done your homework, you already probably know this. So this shouldn't be that new to you. And if you are a maniac, you probably are also not new to the chef tasks or clothes in this game, which are the main focus of this video. I have created a tier list consisting of every chef task, achievements, usually 3 per every level, and clothes, mini secrets that are self-explanatory. And today, I will rank them all. Safe to say this game doesn't need spoilers. And considering I have shown you a lot of footage and icons already, you probably got as spoiled as a banana left outside your room for like 3 hours that you swore were gonna eat. But in case you really want to know nothing more about this, or just want to feel my rankings in deeper level, either agreeing hardly or hating every bit of me because I hated a certain level of yours, I highly encourage you to pause this video, save the video link somewhere, or put it in your watch later, yeah. Like you'll use that, and then play the game. It's like $20, and it gets sales semi-frequently, so it's well worth the money. And even if you're a bit short on dough, there are always more fishy ways to play the game. No shame in it. I don't even own the game. Don't tell the government about this. If you have played the game now or just don't care, I respect that. And with that, we can get ready with the rankings. Now before we continue completely, I will explain the rankings a bit. The tier lists have been ranked D to P, just like the game's rankings. And every task/costume will be ranked on how difficult and how fun they are, with the bottom tiers being generally objectively easy or effortless, with D being a freebie that might need you to play the level twice. C tier is basically D, but you may need to pay a bit more effort to get it, so you mostly don't get them just by accident and might need a little research in the chef task room. B tier is when tasks get interesting, and when I consider them good, but they usually consist of tasks about playing the same level again, but avoiding a certain thing. A tier are good tasks, usually requiring you pay attention and focus on getting the tasks, and S tier is for things even greater, while P being the best of the best. I'll admit, A to P tier mostly consists of personal biases, but I feel like those are also the areas where taste determines the most of it all. This list also includes Halloween tasks and costumes, but they don't do anything, and noise versions of every task, which I'll just say are mostly the same, but we'll get to it when it comes up. I'll be going over every level's tasks in the order of the game, also covering the noises tasks at the same time, bringing up any changes I felt were notable. I'll cover costumes last, as they're mostly miscellaneous secrets you get after everything. I'll also talk about every level as they come up, so fear not. It's not just 5-second segments where I say this task took me 2 minutes, C tier. And if you don't like that, go back to vertical content. Lastly, before I start this huge S tier list, I just want to say that this video was sponsored by Raid Shadow. Seriously though, this tier list consists of my own opinions, and you're free to agree or disagree with any part of this video. And just don't take things too seriously. At the end of the day, we're talking about a game about a guy named Peppino Spaghetti getting terrorized by a sentient pizza. And you'll also like to note that this video is sponsored by Manscaped. John Gutter is the first real level in the game, not counting tutorial, and it has a wide range in the quality of the tasks you can get. John Gutted is the first task, where you have to break these, John blocks. Yeah, John blocks. Really worthy of an achievement here. It's the first of the various types of tasks repeated throughout the levels, and this one I'd like to call collection tasks, as you just need to get every of a certain thing in the level, and for the most part, they're all freebies, and not much of note. Yeah, the first D tier on the list. Not really anything special, but it is somewhat important as it's usually the first achievement a normal person unlocks. Usually by accident, as every block is right in your way. So it works as a good introduction to chef tasks. Let's make things quick makes things more interesting by immediately being a very hard and very good task to test players' skills, forcing you to beat the entire level within 2 minutes. It's fun flying through this level as fast as you can, but isn't that hard? Usually a good player gets it within 3 attempts. It gets AE tier, a rare sight in this tier list, believe me. It's just a really great task, and it's sad not many other tasks are of this quality. And the final achievement is Primal Rage. Wait, it's Primate Rage. I feel like the wiki is gaslighting me. This achievement is a good one, requiring you to get a combo of 99, meaning you have to get every enemy, meaning 2 laps, and also not letting the combo run out, ever. You essentially need to do a slightly more careful P rank without all the other requirements. Using super taunts and not getting hit by the wretched Fork Knights is key, and like the previous task, usually done with ease in 3 to 5 attempts, but it does take a bit longer for every attempt, but still a fun and unique one. I might be 2P rank pilled, but the rush of maintaining a combo that high for the entire level is very fun, so I think it deserves S rank in my opinion. Pizza's Cape is the real start into the game. However, I'd argue it has some of the most lackluster tasks in the game, save for one, but we'll get into that in like. Now, Shining Armor is a task where you have to avoid bonking the wall before reaching every priest. This one isn't that bad, but for a first-time player is definitely a hard one, as they're probably not accustomed to the level design or just controlling the game. But if you constantly want to go fast in the game, this achievement is mandatory and is similar to an avoidance task where you avoid a certain object or thing in the level. Still not that hard of a task, but is fun and somewhat unique enough to stand in B tier. Side note, the noises variant makes it slightly different, but it shouldn't be that different to playing normally. Spoonite is a kill task, where you have to parry 10 Fork Knights, those little demons. Not too hard, but assuming a play gets these tasks in order, it's a good introduction and training for parrying, and it's never a bad thing to practice parrying in a game. It'll give it a C tier because while it isn't free, you can easily get it in a few minutes. However, the next task, Spherical, is essentially a freebie, where you have to kill an enemy in your ball transformation after being kicked by a pepperoni goblin. I don't even know why this task is here. I guess it makes sense since there's a secret dedicated to the ball transformation, but D tier is here for a reason. Ancient Cheese is not that remarkable as a level, in its tasks and in general. Thrill Seeker is another avoidance task, and while I understand it being here since this level is the introduction to bombs and explosions in general, however there's another task in a later level, and which fits more there. But since it's just another avoidance task that actually requires you to play the game semi-decently, they'll give it a C tier. Exploding a rat with a bomb as the noise doesn't count, but that doesn't change much. However, grabbing a bomb as the noise and not having any rats to explode, you're screwed. However, this only really happens in another level, so it's not important here. Volley Bomb is a task where you have to explode a rat with a bomb dropped by another pizza box goblin. And nothing to note here. C tier since there's only a small chance you get this accidentally, but still not that interesting. Delicacy is a collection task of sorts, but more of a destructive one where you have to crumble 41 sets of cheese platforms or 349 individual cheese platforms, and I don't really know why it's so specific. I'd assume it's just more than the amount of cheese platforms in the regular path, but I have no clue. And if you somehow didn't get that within one playthrough of it level, you're bound to get it in another attempt as you have to replay it for the P ranks or other tasks or just in general. Because this level was the first death of many players, which shouldn't be that hard now since the time limit was nerfed to my knowledge, but still. This task isn't that difficult or unique, cementing its place in D tier. Blood Sauce Dungeon is when the game starts to get really good, and is like the first test of your skills, and also switching things up by being more vertical than any other level really. The tasks are, well, not the greatest, but considering everything that's gonna come, it's just the start of a foundation of good tasks. It'll just get Eruption Man out of the way. You need to super jump for like 2 seconds, which most players probably do, and as the noise it's practically required. So if F tier exists, this would go there as the noise. But D is a suitable position for it. Very, very hot sauce and unsliced pizza man are 2 avoidance tasks, and one of the toughest in the levels, where you have to avoid the boiling blood sauce and the rotating pizza slicers respectively. As I have stated before the ranking, if you play well and are aiming for P ranks or just a good time record, you'd already be accustomed to avoiding these hazards, so on their own they really aren't much of a challenge. But as tasks at the start of the game, and being the introduction to avoidance tasks, they are good guides, and teach you to be more careful. I don't really know which task is harder, to be honest. Both screw me up equally often if I'm not careful, but after beating the whole game, I don't really see it as that hard. So B tier for both of them. Peppermint is the first boss of the game, and a great boss in its design as well, being easily telegraphed with his attacks, and just fun to play against. He's not really too difficult, but is not a pushover either, and if I don't focus, I easily get overwhelmed by the stage obstacles, and that fucking phase where he bounces after he stomps. But besides that, a pretty good boss. Not really my favorite boss. And while some argue it can be easier with the noise, and that's what I thought at the start too, but after another playthrough, I didn't really feel it as much than with other bosses. This gets a solid B tier since it's nothing spectacular, but it's good grounds for the future bosses you have to defeat. Now for the S rank and P rank achievements. I just got the P ranks for each one, so every S rank tasks go in B tier, since they are hard I guess. But I'm mostly focusing on P ranks. John Gutter is an easy P rank, even for beginners, since it's essentially a glorified tutorial masked as a starting level, in which case every level in the first layer is just a tutorial for the other floors. but let's not talk about that. But it's still one of the most fun levels to be ranked, as it's just effortlessly easy as long as you don't get hit by those fork knights. Pete's Escape is another fun one, and also the first level where you really need to plan your escape route a bit, as how you get certain toppins and secrets at the escape helps you save time and also just get better at the game. And it's the first time transformations are thrown into the ring, and for the most part the knight form isn't that intrusive, and it's just a fun time. My only gripe is that one room where you lower down to get a knight transformation and then get up again to kill a rat, as there aren't any toppings in that return path, so I got my combos snubbed a lot of times there, but nothing besides that. Ancient Cheese is a really mixed level for a lot of people, but I'm mostly indifferent to it. I like some parts of it, like the music and its general layout being pretty fun to traverse, but the bomb transformation, it's just a glorified item, isn't really that notable. You just grab and throw, and as the noise you just bite and blow, God no. And except for the escape section with a ton of cheese platforms that has a wonky layout, but besides that it was just part of the grind. I had a ton of problems ranking it at first, but I got better as I played, and now it's not that hard. Blood Sauce Dungeon is definitely a level that I hated but liked more and more I played it, just like most levels in this game. I usually had the stance where some levels were worse than others, but after 101% I just feel like there really aren't any bad levels in the game, and Blood Sauce Dungeon is a really fun level, as you have to descend while avoiding the tough obstacles and very difficult secret locations. Keeping your combo is definitely one of the hardest parts of this level due to the constant obstacles this level throws at you along with those stupid pincers, but I got through it. In the beginning this level was the first real roadblock to me, as I could not beat it for the life of me. But now I can do it easily, and as the noise, this level is just magnificent. Playing through the levels as Peppino was fun, so I'd say it's a tier, but for the noise, it's just fun as hell, so I'd say it's S tier. Man 4-1 was a fantastic start to this game. Now, if only it had the appearances of famous PS1 star Mort the Chicken from the video game Mort the Chicken, and the appearance of the boss Taurus. Let's enter this level called Oregano Desert. Oregano Desert has to be one of my favorite levels in the game, consisting of tons of unique mechanics, a fun layout, and an absolutely thigh-bending soundtrack. The tasks aren't that notable though, but well, just have to go through them. Peppino's Rain Dance is definitely a fun idea as a task. You have to reactivate a totem with, well, a rain dance. It's nothing impressive, just turning a few times while mock running will do it. It's a nice idea, however it's nothing too interesting, so C tier. Unnecessary Violence is a destroy task, where you have to destroy all 5 clerk sausages within the Pizzamarts. And while it's funny as hell, except for like 1 or 2 supermarts, there really is no conceivable way you can mess up getting it. So it's D tier. Alien Cow is another avoidance task, and a brutal one at that. You have to avoid all the potentially alien cows littered near the end of the level, and if you touch them, you get punted across the moon and back. Where the Blood Sauce tasks were at least built around you avoiding it. Some cow spots are just brutal, and you need to be very careful at certain spots, and messing up means doing it all over again. But again, it isn't that bad if you put in the work, so B tier. Waste Yard is a pretty fun level, however do the tasks hold up? A. Ghosted is a task where you avoid the John ghost that pops up for this level during the escape, and it's another avoidance task. And unlike the other avoidance tasks, John Ghost follows you. However, he isn't like Pizza Face. As he follows you, while rubber banding he gets faster the further away he is, and slows down when he's near. But he can still catch you if you choke up. But, as with every other avoidance task, it's almost necessary for a good run, and this one is not as obtrusive as the others, so B tier. Pretend Ghost is a destruction task where you kill 20 enemies as a ghost, and while you definitely won't get it in just one run, You definitely can get it with a little routing and making sure no moving objects stay in motion near you. Nothing really to note here again. I guess it's slightly tougher as the noise, as while you have more directional control with dashing, you have to frantically move about to kill any enemy in your way. It gets a C tier. Alive and well is a collection task where you need to surf on every corpse. And I just have to say this has to be one of the easiest tasks in the game. While other collection tasks might need you to spend a little effort on finding the things you need, this one is literally nearly impossible to miss as long as you stay in the main path. And the only real way to mess up is flying through the level, and for a first playthrough. I doubt that would ever happen, so D tier. Oh good. Mort the chicken is here. Fun Farm is A level for sure. I'll get into that later, but for now, the tasks. No one is safe, despite having a banger name. Isn't that interesting? You just have to use the super taunt in the room near the escape to kill the 3 Santos. I don't know why the task specifies 3, even though there are 4 in that spot. Maybe you could have gotten it earlier, but I just don't know. C tier, cause it's interesting but nothing that great. Cube Menace is a task for sure. You have to get to a small ledge in a room with Mort, and then you bear witness to B tier. Okay, jokes aside, it's a fun reference, and even though it's not that hard, but I like it so it goes there. Good Egg is another avoidance task, where this time you have to avoid getting hit. As Mort, the first few playthroughs will definitely be tough as you're very prone to make mishaps often, but again, they become almost a default whenever you have to do a high skill run, so it gets a B tier. As Peppino. But as the noise, it's much easier as Mort turns from the Glaive Lord rings into the Glaive Lord's glaives. Since it homes in on any nearby target, it's much easier to just make hook jumps without missing and killing any nearby enemies that are out of reach or out of range. And while it's very fun to do animal abuse to the world's most domesticated animal to the point they can be more comparable to moving plants than actual feathered bipeds, it is significantly easier, so we'll put him at C tier for the noise. Fast Food Saloon is a really fun, fast-paced level, and the tasks kinda represent that, maybe. Non-alcoholic and Royal Flush are both collection tasks, where you need to get almost every beer bottle in the stage, and collect every card in the stage respectively. They both lie in C tier, just running through the level and maybe slowing down at certain points to see where the cards are will help. But it doesn't matter really, so it's C tier for both of them. Already Pressed is the toughest task. This requires you to activate gate buttons only once, meaning you have to pass through these gate rooms only once. Now the difficult part isn't messing up. No, that's easy as hell. However, 2 buttons are stuck near corridors, meaning you have to touch them carefully, making sure you don't activate them twice accidentally. And on replaying it, it doesn't feel that hard, so it gets a B tier for me. Ah, they gave the cheese slime a hat. Now the Vigilante is one of the most chaotic bosses, especially when you are inexperienced, and using the revolver doesn't help when you can't even aim properly. But upon replaying it, I find the patterns pretty fun, and while some parts still suck, it's a good challenge, so I'd say it belongs in A tier. However, as the noise, the whole boss changes. If you somehow don't know about the head cheese strat in this boss, oh you sweet summer child. If you move to the middle of the room and then throw the bombs just as the Vigilante starts moving, the 2 bombs instantly blows him up, so you get to skip all his attacks. And the best part is, with good timing, you can chain him up in the whole fight. And you don't even have to shoot him near the shoot-off, the noise just does it for you. And while the rules I have instilled point to this task being B tier for the noise. I just find it so fun and exhilarating to bomb this aged milk sheriff without giving him a chance to even stand up. So we'll just give it an S tier. On to the Western District. Like I have said before, the S rank goes to B tier, but this P rank is gonna be a big one. It took me a long time to play Pizza Tower again after my first playthrough, but I managed to start my work slowly and surely, and this floor is genuinely one of the most fun to play through, as every level is very good and no really bad parts to them. Oregano Desert is one of my favorite levels. It's always a blast to go through this level, as you're always on your toes and constantly on the move. Now I know that sounds weird, but to most levels they usually always have some sort of slow or hands-free segment, and usually they are for transformations or a level gimmick. And while Floor 1 had John Gutter and Bloodsauce Dungeon is in general and no slowing down type level, Oregano Desert just hits different. I know it has cows that knock you over, and it has the destructive chain block thingies that literally are built so you wait, but it just feels different, like you're constantly on edge and are always looking to your next move. And even then this level is just very fun and I love it to bits, especially with the banger song. In fact, I got the P rank like 3 times in a row as Peppino on my first few attempts, but I kept losing my combo taunting at the exit door, which speaks volumes about my hubris, but also how fun this level is to play. I'd say this level is again different with the noise, as the Firemouth transformation is noticeably more floaty and just wobbly, but it's nothing a few plays will iron out. Waste Yard was a level I didn't like at the start, but on more playthroughs I liked it more and more. The layout is a bit confusing, especially at the escape where the level's slightly more open design means you keep getting confused at where to go. The secrets are a bit hard to reach, especially the first one where you have to super jump near the stairs, and it's hard to line up as Peppino, but I got the hang of it. Also, what's the point of this hook structure thing? Like, every time I get stuck inside it, and I have no idea what it's for. The ghost transformation is pretty fun though, and the noise transformation makes it different, and somewhat scary if you aren't comfortable with the layout. You'll definitely face troubles trying to frantically dash out of any obstacle. Fun Farm is a level for sure. I wanted to like it at the beginning, and the more I played it, the more I got indifferent to it. I like Mort's transformation, and while the Mort secret was hard as balls, but now I got used to the hooking so it got more fun. This level in general is just alright. It is definitely more fun as the noise as Mort just becomes an omnipotent killing boomerang. But besides that, yeah, it's a level for sure. Fast Food Saloon is a level whose opinion hasn't changed much from when I started playing it, as it's fine. It's definitely another no-stopping level, and one which is executed a bit better, as unlike Oregano Desert there's really nothing that slows you down that isn't an obstacle. The horsey races, the time button gates, and the Wiener mounts are just an extension to and enforcers of the fast frantic gameplay the game already wants you to have, so it's definitely good in that part. The leaf blowers thingies are definitely a bit hard to deal with at the start, as any move you do that isn't the mock run just slows you down to a halt, especially if you grab, leaving you to just float there like an idiot. But after running through the level over again, I definitely gained more appreciation towards it, but it's still a fun level to go through it. I'd say P rank 2 Electric Boogaloo deserves an S rank, as it's definitely one of the most fun floors in this game. But better things await. And no, playing through the first 2 floors always makes me a bit tired, due to the non-stop running and action you face. If only the next level has some sort of relaxing location to unwind for a bit, and if it were one of the best levels in the game. Ooh boy, Crust. Oh. Now I don't know if this is exactly the best level in the game, but goddamn it's always a fun romp going through it. Let's see if its tasks hold up to the level. Blowback is a task where you kill a cannon goblin with their own cannon balls by not sugarcoating it. Again, not a task you're probable to do in your first playthrough, but still C tier. X is a somewhat unique collection task, where you have to find all the X spots hidden around the level. And while it's not that hard to find them as they aren't that hidden, it's still a somewhat treasure hunt of sorts, and it's definitely fun to find them on your own. The one X before the present and the exit is just cruel though. But once you know it's there you'll never miss it. B tier. Demolition Expert is an avoidance task, where you need to avoid getting hurt by explosions. Now I think this is one of the few tasks that's just another task. Literally a clone of Thrill Seeker, basically word by word. However, I'd say that this task is just a bit harder as there are far more threats of explosions here than those slow bombs that have a lot of army time, so it's much easier to avoid. Still, it's an avoidance task, so it gets a B tier for me. Wait, wrong clip. The Forest of Gnomes, certainly one of the most brutal levels in the game. The tasks though. I know I'm getting tired or mentioning the tasks every time, so we'll just get on with it. Be Nice is the task where you taunt with the bees littered sparsely throughout the stage. It just taunts with you. I don't know what to say. D tier. Lumberjack is another destruction task, where you have to destroy every wood block in the level. Yeah, you just have to slow down at some parts to make sure you get every wood block, but besides that, it's just a minor fetch quest. C tier. Bullseye is a task where you parry a noise goblin's arrow. Well, this is a task of all time. There were already tasks that require you to parry like 10 enemies in a level. I don't know why it's only one noise goblin now. C tier. Note, every enemy reacts whenever you taunt near them, so that can be used to make them fire at you as the noise. Yeah, this level doesn't really have any notable tasks, which is probably for the best considering how awful the level is to run through at moments. I can easily imagine a task where you avoid getting hit by the pickle or something, so it's fine I guess. Golf is golf alright. Primo Golfer requires you to get a primo bird scoring on every course, and while the hard part isn't just hitting grease ball every time perfectly, it's that you sometimes just mess up your momentum, and he gets stuck in random places or awkward corridors, so you're stuck trying to realign his course with no avail. But the worst thing that can happen is that you just keep jumping on him, which counts as a stroke for some reason. Again, with practice grease ball gets much easier to control, and if not, you just understand the layout more so you can react more appropriately, and the requirements are generous enough that maybe except for the last few courses that are a bit less generous, but you should easily get this without much difficulty. So C tier. For the noise, however, he rewrites the needed score so no matter what you get a primo bird. And while that's very fun in concept and in gameplay, the original task isn't that interesting or notable enough for me to bump the noise version up. So it gets a D tier as it's literally the easiest task in the game, because there's no conceivable way you cannot get this up actually. Nice Shot requires you to kill at least 3 enemies with grease ball in a single stroke. While the courses are generally sparse with enemies, you can easily get it with simple routing, and since grease ball is just invincible no matter what, so you can mix or nose suck him up and just relocate the enemies near grease balls, so this isn't that special. C tier. Hell Full Burger requires you to score a course using the Burger Golfer. While it isn't that hard, it's definitely a fun and creative task, so we'll put it in B tier. It's not that notable, but it's better than most tasks, so it's up there. Deep Dish 9 is not a level I cherish, but it's thankfully not too long or that difficult. Turbo Tunnel requires you to avoid getting hit by the ceiling while being in the olive bubble, but not during the whole level, but only at the one segment during the escape. While I recognize that avoiding the ceiling completely is a daunting task and definitely not something I'd want to go through attempting. There's even a similar section near the start, but that doesn't matter I guess. As C tier. Man Meteor requires you to body slam these 5 UF olives in one go, which is something. This level has oddly specific tasks. You might have a little difficulty if you don't get the alignment right, but it's not that hard. So C tier. Blast M Asteroids requires you to kill every asteroid in the level, and this one is another easy as hell task. The only reason it isn't D tier is because there's a very low chance you'll get the 3 really hidden asteroids in the level. One blocking the second lap portal, one blocking the third secret eye, and one really awkwardly placed one just before the pillar. I don't know why it's just there. It's easier to get as the noise as you just bounce through walls, but it's still a confusing position, but again nothing agonizing. C tier. Ah, the best Pizza Tower character, confirmed by the creator himself. He might even be the star of another Tour de Pizza game if the leaks are right. But we'll just have to wait and see. The noise as a boss fight was one I initially hated, but as I started P-ranking it, the more he just clicked with me. Sure, his attacks are randomized and are really annoying if you don't know what you're doing, but after practicing and perfecting the art of not sugarcoating it, this boss fight becomes easy, and it becomes more like a test of your reaction time. I mean, every boss is basically that, but you know what I mean. When I first saw people parrying each of Noise's attacks, I was scared because I was convinced there's no way you can pull that off reliably. But to my astonishment, the boss fight wasn't half bad. I quickly learned all his attack patterns and timings, and can reliably parry basically every attack of his. Unlike the other bosses, the Noise doesn't really have any big moving stage hazards, so even though as chaotic as it seems, every move can and will be countered. Sure, you can just meticulously avoid all his attacks, but it's just much simpler and more fun to just not sugarcoat it to him. I'm still not perfect, but it won't take too long to P-rank him once you get a hang of his attacks and the reaction window you need to parry. This became my favorite boss after P-ranking him, as I think he reached the peak of high skill, high reward for me. So it got its place in P tier. And as the Noise, he is a little bit more annoying, but if you try to fight him again, do I need to say anything more? Instant B tier. Tropical Resort is definitely one of my favorite floors. However, I consider 2 levels not that great, so I can't really consider a good floor. Crust Cove is always a fun time to play, and even though the barrel transformation can get really frustrating if you mess up slightly, especially as the Noise, but it won't be that big of a deal as long as you just focus. This level has my favorite song in the game, so I might be a little biased, but it's still incredibly fun, and I just love the vibe of it. I can't really remember anything that bad about P-ranking it, except that the second secret is a little bullshitty to find as it doesn't have any indicators unlike most secrets in the game. But besides that, it's a fun level, and I just love it. Gnome Forest. Even though I love hating on it, it's really not that bad. When I first played the game, I just brute forced the Gustavo and brick levels, not really learning his moveset or his mechanics, which bit me in the ass when I started P-rank attempts. I'm still not perfect with Gustavo, but I do say I understand him enough to, well, P-rank his levels. While I like this level to an extent as just a compilation of cool rooms, especially if you get into the flow as you can just move non-stop while wrecking through everything, but it's still long as hell, and I hate a certain part of this level a lot. I'm aware there's a room in this level that made this level basically the hardest P-rank in the game, where you essentially only had a few seconds to spare before your combo meter runs out. But I got it post-patch where you get these fairy rat thingies that help you. So screw you pre-patch players. The only other part of this level, which I really dislike, are the secrets. Every one of these secrets are just really awkward, and every time I try to P-rank these levels, I get really scared I'll mess up. But after a bit of playing, it's not really that awful. As the Noise, the levels are just a breeze. But as a trade-off, the secrets become much more infuriating. I guess that's a fair trade-off, and due to the Noise's super jump or crusher flight, you can just skip most of these secrets, but it's still awful to just control. They'll get into Gustavo and Rat's controls a bit more in the next level. But for now, it was just a decent level. Golf is a level I desperately want to enjoy, but it's just tolerable to me. Sure, at certain times getting all the strokes just right and not messing things up feels exhilarating, and when it works, oh boy it works, but it just doesn't work consistently enough for me to enjoy that much. I don't know if it's just my fault for not being consistent or the game's fault for wonky physics, but I just don't really like this level too much, but I still appreciate its merits. Also, as the noise, it's not really that different except for the first secret, where it's just insanely hard to obtain for no reason. Maybe I just suck, but it was hard for me to consistently jump over the present compared to Peppino, but it can just be a skill issue. Deep Dish 9 is a level that I hated the more I played through it. There's nothing really that bad I can list on top of my head, but it just felt less fun in a weird way for me the more I played through it. Again, it's not really that bad, however I just don't see it the same as when I first started the game. Thankfully, the escape section is like the only one in the game that's completely relegated to a unique section, and that one switch block section is definitely awful to navigate around. You'll just get accustomed to it as you play. This floor is a solid one, but I definitely dislike more of it than I like, so it gets S tier. This is also like the only floor where it's not too different as the noise. I know Gustavo gets replaced by him, but for the most part nothing is too different, so it remains at S tier for the both of them. Now that we have witnessed the high life, let's move to somewhere more humbling. Oh!
Why don't you walk me through this, Mike? We had a good thing, you stupid son of a bitch. We had Fring. We had a lab. We had everything we needed. It all ran like clockwork.
Oh,
you could have shut your mouth, cooked, and made as much money as you ever needed. It was perfect. But no, you just had to blow it up.
This is a neat one. Pen Fried is a task where you enter a hidden room within the third taxi area, named the Bacon Room. The room speaks for itself. I don't want to know the implications of having a room with bacon in a city filled with pigs, but let's not think about that. It's a fun secret, and while it's nothing too hidden, if you want a good example of that, look at the more cube, but I like it, so B tier. Strike requires you to kill 3 enemies using the rat kick. Now usually a task like this won't be that bad because as Peppino, you could just relocate them using your grab, but Gustavo does not have a grab. However, there are spots in the level that have ample enemies to just flatten with brick, so you shouldn't take that long to get it. So C tier. But a few observant viewers, who I doubt are even here, might say, hey, what about the noise? He doesn't have a brick. That is indeed true. However, for only him a special rat spawns near the end of the level for you to roll down 3 enemies and automatically get it. Now I just got it accidentally as the noise. And for all I know this could be another primo golfer, but I'll give it C tier to the noise again, as I appreciate the effort given to make this task even possible. Say Ink requires you to take pictures with the citizen pigs all over the level by taunting near them. This would just be a Be Nice clone, but since you have to go out of your way and find every citizen makes it more fun. At least more fun than Be Nice. So it gets a C tier for the good effort. The Factory. I'm already getting tired of writing these introductions. Unflattening requires you to get to every priest in the level and remove the box transformation. This sounds simple at first, but this is only really possible in a second lap or some awkward navigation after you enter the secret and get this priest in this location. Now I feel like this priest was just added here because they realized you can just bring the transformation through the secret entrance. But that means there's an additional priest that you usually can't use, so they figured why not make it a task. While it's not necessary for a P rank, heck, I learned this route well into my P rank attempts even though I knew about this. It's still not too hidden, and just an alright task in my opinion. C tier, Whoop. This requires you to avoid all the Elite Weena's attacks during the first secret. And this has to be genuinely one of the easiest tasks in the game. Usually avoiding these hands shouldn't be that hard as long as you are aware of your position, but you can just super taunt and then run to the right. So it's essentially free if you had a combo of 10 or higher before this, which is not that improbable. Also, this is like the only task you earn through a secret directly, so I actually got it during my runs of Secrets of the World. So there's that, I guess. D tier. There can only be one, despite being a badass name. Isn't that interesting? And you just have to kill all the Peppy bots in the level. This isn't that straightforward, as you need to lap 2 in order to kill the Peppy bots spawned in the escape, but besides that, it's nothing that's special or spectacular. I guess killing the Peppy bots during the escape is a bit hard, but good old grab spamming is always a good solution. See tier. Tour de pizza. You can't say the shit word. Can't fool me requires you not damage any of the Pizza Boy cutouts in the level. And while that definitely sounds daunting, it's not that bad as long as you don't mindlessly mock through the level. As long as you abstain from using the super taunt, and just memorize certain rooms that are dangerous, it's not that hard. However, since it's unique, and I like the challenge a bit, so we'll place it in B tier. Food Clan requires you to parry 10 ninja slices. While it can be a bit hard to parry against them, at least you won't have any trouble locating them, as they're scattered all throughout the level, so there's no problem there. Sure, it's definitely annoying, but it's just a matter of time till you get it, so C tier. Penny Pincher requires you to avoid Mr. Pinchers during the escape segment. There are only 2 segments in the escape that have Mr. Pinchers, and just taking it slow will do it. Even though it's an avoidance task, it's a unique obstacle, I guess, so it goes in B tier. Refrigerator. Freezerator. Frozen nuggets need you to break ice blocks containing tiny little birdies frozen in place and free them. Now this task is straightforward, but the thing is that you can only break the ice blocks after you have consumed the Satan's Choice pizza just before the exit. And while most of the blocks aren't that hidden or hard to reach, so it gets A B tier even though it's very unique. Also, the noise drinks motor oil or whatever at the start of the level, so you already have access to flight and ice breaking, so it's easier as you can just break them all during the first trip, so it'll just give it a C tier for the noise. Season's Greetings requires you to kill 5 fake Santas in this level. Now it was news to me that you can apparently kill them by throwing enemies at them, but either way, most of the Santas are located after the escape, so I managed to do it by racking up a combo of 10 and just super taunting, often backtracking or sparing enemies just to save them, so I can build up the super taunt to kill the fake Santas in the future levels. This task is very creative and fun if you understand what to do, so I think it's very deserving of AE tier. Ice Climber is a classic avoidance task where you have to avoid falling into the various bottomless pits across the level. Again, if you are careful, this is a given and necessary for good runs, but I will say that some tight jumps and sections contain bottomless pits that are a bit awkward to avoid if you aren't precise, so it's slightly more difficult than other similar tasks. So it gets A B tier. But die to the noises aforementioned petrol addiction. It's much easier to recover through the flight you access in this level. While IDs say activating the flight last minute, and not every move gives you time to recover easily, but it is there as an option, so I give it C tier. Hey, that's not Peppino at all. Fake Peppino was very hard for me to get a hang of, because his attacks are deceivingly chaotic. He's like a mix of noise with how every attack is slightly different, and the vigilante, as there's just a lot of shit thrown at you that can be hard to keep a track of. The first phase is generally easy, him being alone during your attack phase, but then his clones copy the same move Fake Peppino just did but more twisted and angry. However, phase 1 is easy to get a hang of. IDs say it's easier than most bosses in the game. But phase 2 is when the real wrench is thrown into the gear, as now rather than the clones following up on Fake Peppino, they occur simultaneously. So you have to keep track of 2 or 3 Peppinos while actively trying to kill one. And while that sounds hard, the first few hits are manageable, the last 3 or so hits are just awful. Sure, in retrospect they seem easy, but in the moment, especially when you didn't go that far before in previous attempts, it just catches me off guard every time. After playthroughs though, they get a bit better. He's fun to play through, but I won't consider it one of my favorites, so AE tier. The escape section at the end is nothing notable, however it is slightly easier as the noise as you literally can't get hit, but it's not that notable enough for me to give it much significance. Oh man, the slums. When I first played this floor, I dreaded it because it just consisted of many weird levels, and I really only like refrigerator, freezerator at the start, and that too just barely. However, after P ranking, the more and more I liked the levels inside it. Even though I don't like every part of them, they're still fun enough for me to enjoy more than other floors. The Pig City is a really fun level in concept. However, one part of it always held it back from really being enjoyable for me, which is Gustavo and Brick's section. I'm bringing up his moveset here because I feel like this level definitely has more issues while playing with Gustavo, as it's a lot more tight and platformer based than Gnome Forest. And since I still didn't get the hang of him, I actually had a slightly worse experience playing it here. But it's not that notable enough. I have really two main gripes with Gustavo's moveset, and that is the wall climbing and the mock running. I'm gonna cover the mock running first. If you didn't know, Peppino just automatically mock runs by holding shift or your mock run button, so you don't need to hold the movement keys every time. There's still a benefit for holding keys as you build up speed for Mach 3, I think, and I still hold the arrow keys every time I Mach run, but sometimes I can just hold shift knowing Peppino's fat ass is still gonna move without me worrying about stopping in place. Gustavo, however, I don't know whether or not it is intentional or just an oversight, but Gustavo's Mach run only activates if you hold the movement key, so he just feels less speedy to me and more slippery or sticky in a weird way. It isn't as annoying as the next problem I'm gonna cover, but it's still annoying when I hold shift expecting to move, but he just sits there on Brick and doing nothing. The next problem, however, heavily affects my enjoyment in this level, is how you wall jump. With Peppino, you automatically wall climb, and wall jumping is just determined by jumping on walls, and then he just climbs the opposite wall no problem. Even as the noise, just pressing X automatically moves you to the opposite direction no problem, so wall jumping or moving across walls is not difficult at all. However, as Gustavo, you have to hold jump to latch onto the wall, and then hold the direction you want to go and then jump. Essentially, you have to press the direction you want to go while you're jumping. And while that's like standard for a normal game or something, it just feels weird and wonky as Gustavo, as you feel oddly heavy, and I never got the hang of his wall jumping at the start. Especially this room near the second secret and the corridor and the fifth taxi. Wait, what the hell are those ladders? When I played this level, these ladders didn't exist. Now I understand how those players who P-ranked certain levels before they got nerfed. I also didn't understand the balloon power-up as Gustavo the first few attempts, but I got the hang of it after a few attempts. Okay, enough Gustavo, more this level. This level is fun as hell once you get the controls right, as it's definitely one of the more creative levels, especially with how the gimmicks change with Peppino and Gustavo, and just the vibe in general. It's a good level, and when you get to just run across the burning city during the escape as Peppino is always a highlight of the level for me. One more thing, kill the cheese slime at the start. I had like 3 P rank attempts, but I always got an S tier. It turns out you need to kill the first enemy in the room to begin a P rank, so yeah, make sure to kill the cheese slime. This also applies to Secrets of the World, but it's whatever. Peppabot Factory was a level that I hated and want to hate, but after playing it over and over again, I actually began to like some parts of it. I'll say though 3 parts of this level are very, very frustrating for me. The first part that I despise is the entrance to the second secret. I swear it's there just to torture every P rank attempter. I only got the strat to uppercut above the grabby hands well into my P rank attempts, and even in every few attempts it just seems to randomly mess up. I don't even want to talk about how I got it as the noise. For some reason, I had an easy strat during my noise playthrough, but I don't know any consistent way to get inside now. Maybe a quick wall bounce or something, but whatever. The next part one hate is the third secret in its entirety. As Peppino, it's just anxiety simulator, as every time I'm always scared of hitting the outlets and just kill my P rank attempts. And just when I thought the torment is over, for half of my attempts I just jumped too much near the final jump. I just ran out of jumps and fall to my death and die, so that's another layer to worry about. As the noise, however, this secret, heck, this whole level is a dream for the most part. The last part one despise is, lo and behold, the boost panel conveyor section near the end. Thankfully at the second lap, I can use the box transformation to just skip it, but even then, the first run through is always scary, because you can just mess up right at the end, and then move back way to the start, and lose your combo. Besides that, this level is mostly alright, and even though the parts one hate, I really despise, but I like the level for some reason. Oh shit is a level that I somewhat disliked well from the start, but now am mostly miffed on it. The spit cheese are really annoying here, and it's very easy to lose your combo due to the ninja slices, or just the environment. However, once I got through it, I find it somewhat fun. The only things I really don't like is the ninja slice room, the trash can secret, and how you get it, especially as the noise. It's like mostly impossible half the time, and just the cheese zombie transformation. It's bearable, but it's still not that good or fun. I'd say this level is much easier as the noise though. Even though the cheese transformation is slightly worse in my opinion, the invulnerability to the water currents and the trash cans are generally much faster and more fun. Except for that one secret, but even then it's still bearable. Refrigerator, freezerator, yes, it'll say the whole name every time, has to be one of my favorite levels in the game, because it turns an ice level, usually a dreaded level in a platformer, into a fun transformative experience. The layout is very confusing the first few runs through, but it becomes straightforward once you understand what changes between heat generators and the constant room switching. Running through the level in high speed, narrowly avoiding the bottomless pits, and the snowman near the start is always exciting and really fun to pull off. The only real complaint I'd say is the room before Satan's choice with the literal nation of snowmen that is the bane of every P-rank attempt in this level. However, once you get Satan's choice, the level becomes much more fun. Just beware that the second lap becomes much harder if you don't know where you're going. The noises run here is just much more fun in every way possible. If Peppino was going through a snowstorm and surviving, the noise is bringing a forest fire to Antarctica. No, literally. This floor gets an S tier as Peppino for me, as every level is somewhat fun to me despite their flaws, and the challenge is welcome to me. However, I feel like this floor shines with the noise. Every transformation that's in this floor is changed to be much more efficient and swift, so it's just a non-stop flow through every level, and I got it in like 3 hours, whereas it took me a whole week to beat as Peppino, so it gets a P tier for the noise. Man, I don't feel safe being here. I gotta go tell someone in this tower about this. I'm not supposed to be here. I think someone changed my pizza's care. Cross to bear requires you to kill 30 ghost knights. While I admit, this one you can't get in one try because you don't normally kill 30 ghost knights in one run, and the exorcists are spread few and far about the level. So this requires slightly more effort, but it's still basically free, so D tier. Haunted Playground may seem like a hard task, where you have to avoid all of the King Ghost's traps he can possess throughout the level. While yes, the King Ghost gimmick is essentially a glorified level obstacle, but the plus is that most traps can just be avoided with high speed, as King Ghost just possesses the trap slower than you can run past them, so except for a few rooms there's nothing much to say here. One tip I can say is that you can cheese a section in one portion of the level where King Ghost can get trapped in a TV box as the noise, as the crusher can be activating at any time and at any place. The metal block can be destroyed here, and then this one room is slightly easier. Sadly, King Ghost just respawns by the next room, so nothing too big happens, or else you're probably gonna get softlocked anyway. B tier cause it's easily avoidable, but it can still be screwed up sometimes. Skull Splitter requires you to destroy all the skull blocks littered throughout the level. It's just Lumberjack 2.0, so nothing special here, C tier. Oh, is that Freddy Fazbear? Har 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 har. And this is my gun on a stick. Requires you to kill every top-end monster during the escape with your shotgun. I think most people would already be spamming the shotgun over and over again whenever you see a glimmer of those animatronics. Maybe except for the sausage animatronic and tomato animatronic near the end of the escape only segment and retread segment respectively. But besides that, it's just spamming grab over and over again, so C tier. Let Them Sleep is a very straightforward but damn good task, and it only took the whole ass game to get to this point. This achievement requires you to not activate less than 6 alarms during the level. Pissed. There are 5 segments in this level that require you to set the alarm. If in case you didn't catch on yet, you can't activate any alarm that aren't required in the level. So this is a very interesting task. You essentially have to slowly go through all the rooms and make sure no patroller stays alive near your vicinity. I'd say uppercuts and super jumps are your best friends here. And once you reach the sausage animatronic, you're essentially set, since the escape doesn't matter for the task. I'd say the hardest parts of this level are the sections with the cheese animatronic and the tomato animatronic, as in the former section the cheese on the floor make it hard for you to easily escape or jump quickly, especially if you panic and activate a flying patroller in the last part of the section. The tomato animatronic section is just littered with patrollers. However, the plus is that you can easily build up a combo to just super taunt and clear the screen. Just make sure to super taunt away from them, so you don't accidentally activate them. You can always quickly chain super jumps and uppercuts to destroy the flying patrollers, so it shouldn't take too long. As long as you're slow, and make sure you react quickly enough. Also, if you're quick enough, you can just move to the next screen before any of them activate. And while I wasn't smart enough to do that when I started, it can easily be done in future attempts, so it's nothing too daunting. Quick note: the secrets don't count towards activating the alarm, so feel free to enter this secret to easily destroy this metal block and kill these flying patrollers. Just for how unique and fun this task can be, I'll just give it an S tier for how good it is. Jump scared is essentially another avoidance task, where you have to avoid getting jump scared by the monsters. Again, avoiding the monsters is easy and required if you go for AP rank, as getting caught instantly kills your combos, so there's that. B tier. This is Youre. Decorated Veteran requires you to not get hit more than 3 times. Now, if it were any other level, this task would be a pushover and easily a D tier, maybe C, but this is Youre. The first section is always easy to handle, as the enemies, landmines and outlines are placed in just the right places for you to easily avoid with good timing. But the level gets harder and more chaotic as you go on, so by the end you're just scrambling to get to the exit. I always go hitless throughout the level, and then just get sniped 2 times right near the end, and it never fails to get my blood pumping. A tier, because it's fun and hard if you don't know what you're doing. Sharpshooter requires you to not miss more than 3 shots with your shotgun or your machine gun as the noise. And while this is much easier than the other tasks, I just like it a lot. Since your grab is replaced, most players are probably hard-coded to use it in several moves, especially as the noise. And while it's relatively easy to just avoid using the gun except for the special blocks and enemies right in front of you, I still think it's a fun task and adds to the hectic nature of this level. So A tier. Trip to the war zone requires you to beat the level in under 1 minute. While for a starting player, that might sound daunting, as most people probably didn't beat the level on their first attempt. I sure as hell did not my first time. But after proper routing and just speeding past everything as fast as you can, this shouldn't be that hard to do. However, it is very fun to just let loose and run as fast as you can through one of the best levels in the game. So it gets a good A tier. Now lies one last boss to defeat, that damn circular half sandwich with stuff on it. Pizza Face has to be one of the best boss fights I have ever played, and I have only played like 92. At the start, I hated this boss fight as it just seemed too hard and unpredictable, with the first phase requiring you to throw enemies at Pizza Face by grabbing the enemies summoned by Pizza Face, Super Mario World style. And at the start, I hated it, but after a while, I got accustomed to timing it just right and getting through it as fast as I can to get hitless through the rest of the level, so I've gotten accustomed to it. The second phase, I love and hate. For the second and last time in this game, you once again wield the revolver, and in a heart-wrenching plot twist, we have to fight the real evil mastermind of the game, Pete's Head. Very easy to distinguish. Avoiding the TV and gears are probably the hardest parts of this fight, although the Uzi attack is slightly hard if the gear just so happens to spawn at that moment. And the rat attack can hit you twice if you aren't careful where you're going. This phase is usually not that bad as long as you're careful and mindful of where the gear is. Also, just be careful when and where you parry, as the slight nudge forward you get when you parry can screw you up in certain attacks, and if multiple attacks are happening at once. Parrying should just give you invincibility frames for a moment, but that's not important. The last phase is just beautiful. In the moment, it's such a beautiful moment. This part should usually not be that hard as you're fighting an abridged final boss rush with every foe you face throughout the level. It's usually free. Just be careful near the vigilante and noise, as I easily get hit while holding or throwing Gustavo at them. But it shouldn't be that hard. The pizza base fight is essentially free as every attack is very easy to read and nothing too hard or outrageous to avoid. And it's essentially a victory lap of sorts. If you fail here, it'll just feel sorry for you. As the noise, it is slightly easier like most parts, but it'll still note the differences where they are. Unlike Peppino, you have to wait for Pizza Face to drop down to attack it, so it takes slightly longer. However, just bombing the enemies from afar, the second phase is mixed. The gear being explodable makes it much easier. However, you hoping after you throw a bomb makes it slightly hard to avoid certain attacks, but it's usually of similar difficulty. The final phase is slightly easier in my opinion, with you being able to cheese the vigilante through smart bombing, and with the doys being dead, it's definitely more fun having to just not deal with some of the harder parts of this fight, and it's always fun to bomb them. P tier for the noise and Peppino. Definitely a great boss fight. Now we have one last pillar to break, and the whole tower to reflect on. I love games that save the best for last, and I can honestly say that because I consider this my favorite floor because it doesn't have much I hate, plus it's much shorter than the other floors, so that's a plus. Tisisrealnow is the outlier here, being not that unique compared to the other stages. It's supposed to be a Halloweenified Tisisrealnow, and I might just be stupid, but I don't see it. Like sure, it has castle assets and shit, but there's literally nothing besides that which are similar to Tisiscape, so that's that, I guess. It's just a spooky castle, and not really Tisiscape. Why? Besides that, this one is a fun level if you understand what to do. The layout is funky, and the level in general is just filled with weird corridors that are hell if you don't know what to do, and are pretty slick once you do. I really like the part in the final room where you have to trap King Ghost in the TV to get John, and then rescue him from the TV again to kill the stupid rat. The escape is alright, nothing too bad. Just mind the entrance to John's room, as it's easy to mess up and lose your combo if you aren't careful. Besides that, there's nothing much to it. I actually completed the P ranks to this floor in reverse order, so Youre then don't make a sound and end this. So I was stunned when this took by far the longest time to beat. When I heard that people consider this the hardest P rank in the game, I agree somewhat, but it's manageable once you go through the works. Don't make a sound is not as bad as I thought it was gonna be, as I surprisingly P ranked it pretty quick. Just being mindful of the patrollers and not losing your combo should do it, as this level doesn't really have any tough platforming parts and is mostly just a straight dash to the exit. The only really hard part of this level that I have found is the entrance to the first secret, as I kept getting jumped by the mushroom toppin', but just not being cocky helps, I guess. Yeah, this level ain't that bad, and that's good to know, as I generally hate horror. Youre is the best level in the game, as it's incredibly fun and just exciting to go through it all no matter how many times I play through it. Lap 1 is usually not that hard, but if you want to go through the level, just make sure to have at least 30 or so seconds left, because lap 2 is not forgiving. Obviously, through practice, lap 2 also becomes easier, and a good run will have around 40 seconds left, but man, the thrill of keeping a combo all throughout the level and just making it while the timer clicks down is something else, man. Youre is a great level, and I surprisingly got it done pretty fast, so nothing bad to say here. Just wish it was slightly longer or had more mechanics at play. It'll just say that as the noise, it is slightly harder because your grab is vital for your movement, and having it replaced with a slow machine gun doesn't help, but his rapid mobility makes up for it in my opinion. The crumbling tower of pizza is a great send-off to the game, not so much as a challenge. I admit that the first time I played the game I died to this level. I don't know how I did it, and ever since then I always hated this level. However, after playing through it, it's not bad at all. However, a certain costume makes it my least favorite level in the game probably. Keeping your combo and score up isn't that bad. Just be mindful of where you're going, I guess. As I said before, this has to be my favorite floor in the game besides slums and western, so anything lower than AP would be sacrilegious. And with that, every task in the game has been conquered, and on to the first, and possibly only limited time event. Tricky Treats is a fun stage to just run through. There are no P ranks or lap 2s or anything, only 2 straightforward tasks. Pumpkin Munchkin requires you to get 30 pumpkins, 20 in all the levels, and 10 obtained from this stage. So B tier, as technically it's optional, and even then, the stage isn't anything easy, so B tier. Trixie requires you to get all 10 pumpkin in this stage in one run, meaning you need to go to all blue arrow paths as well as the regular ones. The thing is, this level is fun. Really fun. Probably one of the best levels in my opinion. Sure, it's nothing too special. Just a simple obstacle courses using certain gimmicks form other levels. But man, it is fun. The pumpkin ghost chasing you adds to this level being more tense and fun. Although 2 parts of this level become infuriating because of it. Pumpkin Ghost is essentially John Ghost fused with Pizza Face, where he follows you, but only catches you if you make a mistake or slow down. But he boots you out of the level entirely, and back to the tower lobby if you lose. Don't know why you couldn't just go back into the lobby. But like one extra key press doesn't do that much in the grand scheme of things, so it's whatever. I found the course fun and would play more of it if I could, but I have to change the date of my system to try it, and everything freaks out when I do so, and so I can't use anything besides the game while I play, so that sucks. I played the game while watching YouTube on the side like this. Yes, basically most of the game like this. Not the initial playthrough, but all the tasks and shit were mostly done like this. Also, Pumpkin Ghost booting you out every time you make a mistake makes it so you essentially need a flawless run every time you play. And while I got pretty good at this level and consider myself decent at this game, 2 parts of this level are far too close for me to reasonably play it again and again. The 2 parts one despise are the exit to the first blue arrow and the entrance to the last blue arrow, head mirrors. The first one isn't that hard. After you leave it you can lure and then do Pumpkin Ghost through a super jump or a quick jump. But every so often I just mess up, and that never helps in boosting my morale. The second part requires you to break metal blocks in the middle of the wall in an awkward position, and I used a super jump to get up, so it leaves me little room to get it consistently, so I hate it. The section in itself isn't bad, but the path to get it sucks. But still it's fun, and if you haven't played it please do. Also, side note, while the bonus costumes you get for the pumpkins are unlocked for both Peppino and the Noise, but you still have to unlock the pumpkins and the tasks separately. It's slightly more stressful as the Noise, especially at the end when the level requires super jumps or careful navigation, but it should still be quick and fun. It gets a P tier, even though it might just be the level as the task. The level is fun and I'd love to play it more. If you're into lap 3s or shit like that, this level would probably be up your alley, heck your corridor at that. But I'm not really familiar with it, so I can only give it so much credit. Now, after all these gamings, and getting very sweaty, let's just see what clothes I can change into by looking in my wardrobe.
Will you teach me to shoot?
Yes.
Will you teach me to kill?
No, hon. No, hon. No. I don't think I will.
Ooh boy. This will be a doozy. PNGs of preposterous pevants are not the only things you can unlock, as Peppino and the Noise can also extend their wardrobe throughout the game from various odd tasks that you obtain from just playing regularly, or searching the wiki on a bright sunny day, ignoring the bountiful vitamin D for some colors or patterns a fat Italian or a Mexican can wear. But that's beside the point. Clothes are like the real achievements in this game, as they are often random, and most of them can't normally be acquired by a mortal person with a life, so that makes them harder. However, the trade-off is a color or pattern you can switch into at any floor or any save file. So it's slightly more rewarding and also good to know, as I'd hate to do some of these over and over again in every save file. And since some clothes literally require you to play the game again in a fresh save, I guess this is fair. I'll try to quickly cover these costumes as fast as I can because I'm tired and am incredibly close to finishing this longest video. Quick note, I'm still covering these clothes on how hard and fun they are to obtain, and not on their look, though that may affect its rating just slightly. Maybe if you stick around I'll give you a top and bottom 5 favorite clothes, but nothing set in stone right now. Okay, time to go inside a trial room with every shirt in the store. Classic Cook requires you to play the game. D tier, it's self-explanatory. God, imagine playing Pizza Tower while Peppino is naked. Unfunny Cook requires you to end a combo after you get the unfunny title, so just a little over 75 or so enemies. Now if I'm being honest, half of these costumes will just go in D tier, especially for Peppino, as you can just get half of these by the time you finish everything, heck probably more than half. So to be a little more fair, it'll only put D tier in case you get it without even being aware of how you can obtain it within a normal run, or it's literally given to you for free in your first run. So to move on with these rules in mind. C tier. It just barely passes D tier as you need to maintain a pretty high combo. Though Primate Rage literally gives you this clothes even if you didn't attempt it, so there's that. Money Green requires you to have the maximum amount of money by floor 2, so that means getting all 40 top-ins in the 8 levels, without buying the gate to the Vigilante. This isn't that hard to get, though just be aware buying the Vigilante before you beat the level locks you out of this costume, so you need a new save to get it again. Since I accidentally locked myself out of this costume, he'll give it a C tier because most people would probably just miss it. Sage Blue needs you to beat the first floor within an hour, and I got this within my first playthrough. If you rush through the game without slowing down or trying to understand the controls deeply, and just winging it will probably get you this easily. If I could suggest anything, making it so you need to beat the floor within 30 minutes or even 15 if we want to feel frisky could make it easily be B or a tier, but it's not, so C tier. Blood Red requires you to kill 1,000 enemies within your playthrough. While that is a big number, you're bound to reach this one sometime through your run, so D tier. TV Purple requires you to get a P rank at every level of the game, so it automatically gets P tier. If you own Pizza Tower and haven't gotten this costume yet, go get it. Sure, it'll be a long grind, and it won't be easy at all, but man, it is fun as hell and one of the most satisfying things you can do in gaming in my opinion. It took me a month or so, grinding in almost 3 or 4 hours every day, and my save file has 50 hours, so yeah, I'd advocate for this game any time of the day. Dark Cook requires you to beat every boss in the game without taking any hits, so it's essentially a P rank for the bosses. To be honest, bosses aren't the best parts of this game, and I don't really look forward to play the bosses again and again. But they're all fun and mostly fair, so it's not that hard to play. It's still fun as hell, and are required, whereas P ranking levels are mostly optional. The costume is sick as hell though, as it's just black and is the closest thing to an invisible suit in this game. This gets an S tier, as it's not as grindy as TV Purple, but is still a hard task. Shitty Cook requires you to sniff shit for 10 seconds. A tier. I'm not gonna explain more than that. Golden God requires you to get every S-rank task in the game. And just like the normal S-rank tasks, these are just a side dish that's given free with a P rank. But it's still somewhat a challenge, so I'll give it a B tier. Garish Cook requires you to taunt over 50 times. And unfortunately, not sugarcoating it doesn't count. While everyone is bound to taunt for a long time while playing, it's not like instant, so it's whatever. So C tier. Moody Orange requires you to get every top-in in the game, so you'd have like $90 or a centage left over, so you can give the money to Mr. Moody right after you buy the boss gate. While this is like my favorite costume in the game, it's not a special costume as most people already get every top-in, so it's basically free, but still, it's not like free, so it's C tier. Funny Polka requires you to end a combo on the funny title, which basically requires you to have a combo between 70 to 74, which is slightly above 69, which is funny. Also, unlike Unfunny Cook, you have to end your combo on this title, so you probably won't get this by chance at the start, but it's not super hard, so B tier. Itchy Sweater requires you to reach Grandpa Pepper in the start of the Pig City, and get a big oil punch to the face. Sure, it's just visiting Oil Grandpa that can hit you through invincibility frames, but it's hidden enough that you basically have to look at a guide RO reach him, or at least mess around in the room, so B tier. Pizza Man is given to you once you beat the game. And well, it's a cool shirt, but since everyone beats the game at least once. I hope this is basically free, so yeah, D tier. Bowling Stripes requires you to kill 30 bowling rats, which is while it's definitely unique. I'm pretty sure you'll get this in a normal playthrough, and unlike the other every blank close, this one isn't really that impressive and feels very random. So D tier. Golden Man No Wait Goldman requires you to get every task in the game. Again, it's a given considering you have to get 100% in the game since P ranks don't count. But I'll put this high up because beating the game is so dang fun. P tier. Bad Bones requires you to get hit 50 times. And since getting hit is pretty inevitable and new players get hit all the time, so this is basically a free one, but it looks sick as fuck and is also somewhat unique, so yeah, C tier. PP Shirt requires you to beat the game again on another save file, and while it's not really anything special, just play in another save file. Not everyone may want to go for every close, and so beating another save file may not be completely plausible for a normal player, but it's completely doable, so it gets B tier. War Camel requires you to beat War in one go on your first save file. Now I'm pretty sure everyone has failed at War at least once. I failed like twice, I think. Now War is a hard level, especially once starting out, but it's definitely doable, so beating it in another save file for the first time isn't that bad, but it's still cool, especially if you did it in your first try. A tier. John's Suit requires you to resurrect John within 2 hours and 15 minutes, so reaching the Youre quick as hell judgment at the end. I for one took 2 tries to get this clause, so yeah. It's tough if you don't go into it prepared. I suggest P ranking every level, and at least beat the bosses a bit to understand how to beat it in order to tackle it, but it's not required. I suggest you try to skip Toppins in Golf and the Pig City, and even in Oregano Desert if you feel frisky, but I mostly did that on the fly in the middle of the run, so yeah, maybe try to plan a bit more before going into this. Going into a new save is really fun trying to blast through each level, and is a free trial of speedrunning in case you're interested. I'd get 96 if I had submitted my run in speedrun.com. P tier, anything less would be a disgrace. And finally, all the Halloween costumes. They are all attained by getting every pumpkin, so yeah, it goes in the same level as Pumpkin Munchkin. Sure, the first few costumes are technically more free than the later ones, but I ain't dealing with that. B tier. Okay, that's enough browsing clothes for an Italian, now let's look into capes. Thoughts a little better. The same rules set for Peppino apply here, though you'll just note that Noise has a lot more unique costumes than Peppino, and basically have no repeats from Peppino, except for some, and are far more varied, so yes, strap on tight. Noise requires you to be the Noise. D tier. Boise requires you to fly using the Crusher, and then exiting through your skateboard and then chaining them to fly with the Noise. I discovered this accidentally, and man, it was just fun knowing you can do this. And it's even cooler knowing MacPig knew about this, and didn't do much to change this, and instead acknowledge it by rewarding you with a new costume. Maybe they couldn't change it as it's important to keep this interaction without locking some options. But it's still cool as hell. So AE tier. Rowies need you to kill 4 enemies in a row using your tornado attack. And this is just dumb. I like the idea of killing a certain amount of enemies with your tornado, but 4 is just bullshit. Something like 10 or even 15 would be really cool and require you to plan out where you do it, but alas, it's piss easy instead, so D tier. Poise requires you to taunting 10 times at the exit gate while holding your combo during a P rank. Now a lot of people are probably aware of this interaction, and sometimes it could even save your P rank by just giving you enough score to get the P and win. However, I rarely get enough time to get the combo, and either break the combo, or just wimp out at the last moment. So getting it right is super satisfying, and just having it being rewarded in an external medium is very great, so it gets S tier. Reverse requires you to get a D rank in John Gutter, and under 4 minutes. In most cases, getting a D tier in a level is often harder or more frustrating than getting a P rank, so it's cool that the game knows this, and it's just cool to get rewarded for it. And having the colors of your outfit swapped is cool as hell, though making it have Peppino's colors would be cool and cut deep Oswell, but it's whatever. It's good as is, so it gets an A tier for me. Now we're moving to the boss clothes. Those are Critic, Outlaw, Anti-Doise, Flesh Eater, and Super. These all require you to beat their respective bosses without wasting a single bomb. This means every bomb you throw out as the noise should always be a hit, and can't be timed out, or hit another obstacle, or fall off the screen. And I'm just saying this, no. This sounds like hell, and not as satisfying as no hitting the boss. Sure, you can get hit over and over again, and probably just camp next to the boss, and pray you don't hit anything else. But I don't think you'll enjoy that very much. Even if it wasn't as bad as it sounds, it's too bad cause I just cheesed it by playing in swap mode and just using Peppino's grab. Can't waste bombs if you waste your wrists instead. Sure, you might call me a wuss for not doing this the legit way, but it's technically legal, and I just didn't want to stretch out my hours in this game artificially. A lot of noises costumes that don't directly require the noise can be done in swap mode. And usually even easier is Peppino, because he has a tighter move style, and that you might be more comfortable with. And this comes in handy for another cloth that's coming up. Since you just share your saved file with the noises in swap mode, this is just a consequence of that, and I just like to see it as an easy mode, and it'll take that over whatever pain this could cause. All these clothes get B tier, except Anti-Doise, because, yeah, it gets B tier. Fast Porcupine requires you to beat the game within 2 hours, basically needing you to get a slowed down nerd rating. Yeah, this is John Suit 2.0, but even easier since you don't need to revive John. So it falls shy of P rank, since it might be a bit too easy if you have gotten other costumes, so S tier. Also, side note, when I first attempted this cloth, I got like 140-ish, so pretty safe for the run. However, it didn't show up during the final cutscene, so I was scared. However, it was just in the wardrobe when I checked, so yeah, that's something I guess. Feminine side requires you to get every toppin and give the rest of your money to the Noisette Bunny, and it's just Moony Orange 2.0, so C tier. Real Doise requires you to breakdance on the Doise's corpse during the final boss's third phase. And yeah, this is just gold. It's not hard, but man, it is just a perfect costume. And getting to actually look like the Doise, so yeah, P tier. Forest Goblin requires you to beat Gnome Forest without killing any noise goblins. And I absolutely hate this cloth. This achievement isn't really that bad, just moving slow and not pulling out your skateboard. This wouldn't be that hard if the noise is just a murder machine. Half of his moves either directly lead you to kill, or the moves chain into another move that kill, like pulling out your keyboard at any time. Now, if the noise needed his skateboard for mobility would be such a shame. Oh god damn it. This cloth is again not that bad. I got it in like 3 good attempts, but I still hate it. It requires you to be slow all the time, or at least study the rooms where the goblins are present. And it just feels bad moving slow in this game. And it doesn't help having a panic attack whenever you have to pull out your skateboard to break metal blocks or make wall jumps isn't really good. The noise goblin spawned in at the last jump near the escape is an awful, awful prank for anyone who was not aware of this and ended one run of mine. So yeah, be mindful of that. Besides that, it's still somewhat fun and is tough, so it's P tier in my mind, even though I hate it. Racer requires you to beat the time in your save compared to Peppino's save. Note, this doesn't mean just beating Peppino's fastest save. It means beating the save file with the same number as yours. Example, save 2 of the noise requires you to get a faster time than Peppino's save 2. Now, besides stating the obvious that since it took a year or so to get the noise, so you're bound to get a pretty big time on Peppino's save. And even if you just hopped into the noise right after you beat it as Peppino, the noise is just faster in most scenarios, and you're already more acquainted with the level design, so yeah. If you didn't get this in your first try, I'm just more concerned than anything. D tier. Comedian requires you to taunt for 10 seconds during any boss. While that sounds pretty hard, I'd say the easiest way to do it is just fighting fake Peppino and break dancing after the second attack, as the flying frog clones don't come anywhere near you to cause any harm. So yeah. C tier. Banana requires you to slip on a banana 10 times. This just feels like a rejected Peppino cloth. So yeah. D tier. Noise TV requires you to get a combo over 50, letting the noise pop out of the TV. You pretty much are guaranteed to get this in a random level, and are even easier than the funny and unfunny clothes for Peppino. But it's whatever and is cool, I guess. So C tier. Madman requires you to beat a level while Pizza Face is spawned or nearby. Essentially make it so he shows up during your transition to the ranking screen. While this isn't anything that hard, just waiting at the gate after the escape and letting Pizza Face spawn only to edge him and leave instantly is pretty easy. Actually having a close call during a second lap and barely escaping the dough of hell is thrilling and more fun to achieve in that way. It gets a B tier because it's not that hard, but is still a cool idea. Bubbly requires you to interact with every olive bubble in Deep Dish 9. And again, this just feels like a Peppino reject cloth. But it's whatever. So C tier. Well Done requires you to get hit by every single cow in Oregano Desert. And I mean every cow. Now it sounded pretty reasonable. There are only like 10 cows in the level. And if you count the secrets, maybe like 15, but oh no. This is just like Forest Gnome, but more frustrating and slow. Oh so slow, that optional section in the escape has like 40 cows, and it hurt trying to reach each one without getting knocked out of range. But I did it in one go. It's not as bad as I make it out to be, but it's still hard, so I give it a E tier. Granny Kisses requires you to talk to every Granny Pizza in the game, excluding the one in Tricky Treat. Now getting them in the tutorials isn't that hard at all, but going through every floor over and over again to reach the missing grannies isn't exciting, and just another grind. I guess it is fun to look at all the text, but besides that it's just restarting the room simulator. B tier. Tower Guy is. This will be a doozy. This is Pizza Tower Guy, abbreviated to PTG for time's sake, and since it's the kinda official name for him. PTG spawns in set positions throughout the level, and depawns whenever you get too close or a minute passes in the level. Tower Guy requires you to visit PTG in every level. Now this has to probably be the hardest thing I have done in this game. P ranking doesn't really help you as the route to go fast isn't super obvious if you have P rank memorized. And keeping a combo is useless, since your movement needs to be precise, and no time can be wasted for a lot of these. Usually I found that the level's difficulty isn't consistent with the PG location. And I have basically forgotten how hard these locations are in relation to each other, but a list a few outliers. Oregano Desert is super hard to reach as you barely have 3 or 4 seconds left, so it's tight as hell. Youre is hard as well, but that's somewhat expected. Deep Dish 9 is also a very hard one to get, but the rest are pretty manageable and are relatively fun to get. However, the worst one in my opinion is the Crumbling Tower of Pizza. So hey, this level is actually hard for something now. I initially got to every location as the noise, however it didn't register proper. So I did it again, but it didn't work anyway. So I decided to use swap mode and do it as Peppino, and man, it was much easier. So there's your easy mode if you want that. This gets a P tier automatically as it's super unique, and even though it's grindy as hell, it's still pretty fun and really makes you familiar with speedrunning, so yeah. And finally, all the Halloween costumes. They are all attained by getting every pumpkin, so yeah. It goes in the same level as Pumpkin Munchkin. Sure, the first few costumes are technically more free than the later ones, but I ain't dealing with that. B tier. And it's done. The whole ass tier list. Tasks and everything. I have done it. It's beautiful, isn't it? Now this tier list isn't perfect. Most of AE to P mostly consists of personal biases, but it's whatever. I had fun and I hope you do so too. Now, for not clicking away as soon as you saw something you didn't agree with. If I were to list my top and bottom 5 clothes for both Peppino and Noise, purely on their looks, they would be top 5. Number 5. John suit. Cuz John. Number 4. War camo. Cuz Vietnam. Number 3. Bad bones. Cuz Saint. Number 2. Candy wrapper. Cuz purple and orange. Number 1. Moody orange. Cuz it's orange. Bottom 5. Number 5. Autumn. Cuz this handkerchief looking thing doesn't fit on this man. Number 4. Bowling stripes. Cuz it's just pizza man with a texture stretching problem. Number 3. Fur. Cuz it's just shitty cook but bearable. Number 2. Unfunny cook. Cuz it's just desaturated sage blue. Number 1. Shitty cook. Cuz it's shit. And for the Noise, top 5. Number 5. Super. Cuz it's super mode. Number 4. Forest Goblin. Cuz it's Forest Goblin. Number 3. Noise TV. Cuz purple and yellow. Number 2. Madman. Cuz it's just crazy but in a good way. Number 1. Tower Guy. Cuz purple and the brick. Texture is nice. Bottom 5. Number 5. Reverse. Cuz it's just, well, I think it speaks for itself. Number 4. Real Doys. Cuz I hate brown people. Number 3. Fast Porcupine. Cuz it's just purple. Number 2. Eyes. Cuz it's just flesh eater but different. Number 1. Flesh eater. Cuz it's just gross. And with that, I have finally finished ranking every task and costume, and whatever in Pizza Tower, along with the top 5 thing whatever along the way. But it's whatever. I have left the tier list made in Tier Maker down in the description below, so you can have fun with it I guess. And if you do use it, please send it to me in Twitter or my Discord server ahem. This game is incredible, and man, the first time I got 101%, it truly was a feeling like no other. Now it wasn't like a massive world-changing event like you expect, but it was a soft giddy feeling in my chest, knowing I have done something only almost 10% of the players have probably achieved, and wow, only like 100k people or so have gotten. Now 100k is not that small, it's like how many copies were sold within the first 3 hours or so. But it's still notable considering the game has just above 1 million copies sold or something, which makes me feel a bit better. Now what does this say about me? I really like being in control of a town. If I add up my save files, that's almost 50 hours with Peppino and 40 with the Noise. So I got just a little under 90 hours down my belt, which is a lot I guess. I usually never complete games like this, but the controls were just too dang fun, and I had an iron will for this particular game I guess. Even now I still look forward to playing the game again even though I have no good reason to. The game's fun, and I wish I had more to play, and hopefully there's more Pizza Tower or just more Tour de Pizza games, which will be fun to play. This video was mostly fun to make and I hope to make more videos like this. And I don't really know what game though. I mean I could do Ultra Kill but... Someday, the other game I am close to finishing is BE6, and am not close at all. It's whatever, it'll just make videos here and there so that's about it. Now, if you still haven't played the game, please do. If this mad rambling hasn't emphasized how good this game, or how much a rubber padded room would be hospitable to me, I don't know what else. And besides that, I have nothing else to say except that keep getting those toppins. Make sure to never sugarcoat it. And remember that Tisisrealnow.